Kevin Hunter with Dave Ford here on the Business Forum Show, and our special guest is Dan Berckes from Freedom Strategy Group, and you can find him on the web at freedomstrategygroup.com, and you can also call the office at 763-421-9456. Well, welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm glad to be here.
Now, elaborate on what specifically you do, and we'll talk about some of the differences between you and what a financial advisor is, but visit about your organization and what specifically you do.
All right. Thank you. Freedom Strategy Group was started in 2009 with really an intention to be an added capability to a CPA firm that I office at. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a lot of things with money that people want to know, and when they're talking to their CPA, they're getting all the tax advice that they need. And many of these people are looking for, what is it beyond taxes that I need to know to accumulate and to protect my wealth?
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the difference between a wealth strategist, which you say you're the only one you know because you came up with the term, right?
Right. Always trying to help people see uniqueness. When I talk to people about money, the general consensus is that I'm a financial advisor. Mm-hmm. And I make it very clear to people, and in the back of my business card I write what the definition difference is. Mm-hmm. Financial advisor is someone who's licensed to sell financial products through the financial regulatory authorities. I am not licensed to sell investments. A wealth strategist does not sell investments. A wealth strategist talks to people and helps people understand how to build and amass wealth. Mm-hmm. It's not about buying products. It's about learning a process to help you from avoiding some of the mistakes that are made in the financial business.
Sure. Well, there's something I wanted you to elaborate on. You said one of your top challenges are people who don't know anything about money and all the misconceptions around it. So talk about that.
Right. Kevin, you asked me what's the number one problem that I face, and it truly is education. So many people, they graduate from high school, and their kids graduate from high school, and they have very little knowledge of finances. Mm-hmm. They don't know about money. They don't know how money works, and most kids, when they start, don't have any money. Mm-hmm. And I've said before that I work with really two groups of people. The two groups of people that I work with are either people who are already wealthy or people who want to become wealthy. Mm-hmm. And the biggest problem that I find is that our education system doesn't teach people anything about money. And everybody's always pointing their finger at the education system like something's wrong with the education system. And I would go one step further than that, and I'd say it's not just about our education system, but it's about families and parents not taking the responsibility to learn what they need to learn about money, mm-hmm. so that they can help their children by example. Mm-hmm. And that's where a difference, one of the major differences of being a financial advisor and a wealth strategist comes, is that I teach people about money, how money works, and how they should use and accumulate money, how to protect it, rather than talking about the products that you buy.
Mm-hmm. Now, visit about that a little bit, because you mentioned that financial institutions have products for the masses. Right. What's the difference between that and things that produce true wealth? Because when I think about products for the masses, I just take the financial thing out of it and just think about business in general, and you think about what the masses do, and the masses aren't really the ones producing a result. So whenever I hear that, I'm going, okay, that's not really where the results are happening. So talk about that. What are the products for the masses, and why are financial institutions pushing this?
Good question, Kevin. When I'm trying to describe what the masses are, first of all, most people think they're average. Mm-hmm. If I ask people across the board, would you consider that you have an average income, or would you consider that you have an uncommon income? And most people that I talk to and ask that question, they say, well, I have an average income, because what they're thinking of is everybody they know and everybody around them. So I play this little thing called the income game, and it's kind of a fun game. But, I get to ask the questions and they get to answer. Isn't that fun? Mm-hmm. So that's the fun part of this income game. So the income game works like this. It's describing what it is to be the masses. So if I were to ask what the top 50% of earners in this country earn, so if I'm talking household adjusted gross income, the top 50%, most people are thinking about themselves and they're thinking, well, all the people I know earn about this, and then they give me a number.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to ask that number, what do you suppose the majority of people would say? This is the average income of the 50% households in America.
So what did you say it was, Dave? What do you think it was?
The 50%, I was thinking for the wealthy, I was higher, but for the 50%, I would say somewhere in the $70,000-$80,000 range.
Okay. So what is it really?
That's interesting. And before I give that answer away, Kevin, when people are listening to this, everybody came up with a different number. Some were higher than Dave, some were lower. But if you would start climbing it up from wherever you started and say, okay, if that's the 50% level, then what's the 25% level?
Mm-hmm.
What are the top 25% earners in this country earning? And everybody has a number for that.
Mm-hmm.
What are the top 10% earners? And then you get up into this echelon, where you say, what's the top 5 and what's the top 1%? That's where people are thinking about the uber rich. It's
Mm-hmm.
the people that own the baseball franchises,
Yep.
They own the NFL, the rock stars, they're thinking of these mega millionaires, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as you climb that up, wherever you started at that bottom 50%, and Dave said around 70,000, well, the real answer, unbelievably, in this country is only $34,000. $34,000 is what the average household earns in this country, 50% and higher.
Mm-hmm.
That means 50% of the people are earning less than that as a household. And that's just mind-boggling for a country where everybody thinks this is where all the wealth is.
Right.
Very mind-boggling. So those are the products for the masses. That's what we're talking about.
Well, the products for the masses is first you have to understand who the masses are.
Yeah.
And the masses are the 50% and less.
Yes.
So when we're talking about the 50% and more, we're really trying to get people to understand that, look, if you take what I would call traditional financial advice that's being pumped on the TV, I mean, who's watching the TV to get their financial advice? The masses are.
The masses,
Yes.
right.
Right?
Yep.
So if that's where they're going to get their education, those products are built for that group of people.
Mm-hmm.
If you are wealthy, or if you want to become wealthy, you cannot take that common advice. You have to be looking for uncommon advice because you have different enemies than the masses do.
Absolutely. Well, amazing stuff. And I'll tell you what, somebody has to get a hold of you that's interested in creating wealth if they don't already have it, because obviously there's a lot to learn here. Dan Berckes is our guest here on the Business Forum Show. You can contact him by going to freedomstrategygroup.com. Again, that's freedomstrategygroup.com. And call him at 763-421-9456. Kevin Hunter with Dave Ford here on the Business Forum Show. Our guest is Dan Berckes. Thanks for listening.